that. Um, I played 3rd edition. I played 2nd edition when I was pretty young. Um, I played 3rd edition when I got older, like when I was in college. I haven't gotten to touch 4th edition, but I actually wanted to. It's just everybody had this really bad preconception about what 4th edition was. They were like, oh, it's so boring. It's like an MMO. Stuff like that. Didn't really get to play it as a result. I do play Pathfinder, though, particularly now. I'm not in a 3.5 campaign. I currently play in a Pathfinder campaign called Cults and Cauldrons, which I also post on my highlights. And I DM a long-running Pathfinder game that's been up for about a year and a half. And we've just started streaming. We've streamed about 2 sessions on here as a result of that. So, and those, of course, are on the favorites again. See, I thought 4th edition got a lot of hate that it really didn't deserve. It was just a different style of play. Yeah, it wasn't, like, you gotta understand that people complain that it wasn't as deep as 2nd edition or 3rd edition, but you gotta understand that 3rd edition had like 15 years or whatever to print books. And really, that was a bad thing. Once they had all of these things in there, the game became super easy to break. There were things that didn't make sense. They didn't really quantify things well enough so you could get away with shit that you shouldn't have been able to. A lot of people complain, they're like, oh, well, you know, now you know exactly how much this does or what it does. Yeah, it lowers your creativity a little bit, but it also more clearly explains and streamlines and quantifies what the power can actually do and what it can't. As far as being a linear video game, a DM can help a lot with that. If you're familiar with Chris Perkins, he's one of the, I don't remember if he's a producer or a lead designer for Wizards, but he's ran a couple adventures through 4th edition with the Penny Arcade guys and with the Robot Chicken guys that are online on YouTube. I would consider looking into them. I mean, those are pretty linear quest lines, and he can still present them in such a way that's very enticing and interesting. You can also run Sandbox pretty well inside of 4th edition as well. The one major complaint that I've heard from a lot of people that have played it, and again, I didn't really see it in those particular sessions that I was talking about with Perkins, was that combat tends to take a long time. I'm inclined to believe, or I'm inclined to agree, just because so many people say it. But again, I haven't seen a combat for D&D take 1 billion hours either, so... It's just really different strokes for different folks, the way I figure. Like, I probably should re-look over the 2nd edition rules. Just to, like, kind of look over them again and see what I think of them now with my better understanding of game mechanics. I have a background in game design, kind of. I thought 3rd edition and Pathfinder are both very deep systems, but they have a fuck ton of rules, which can really slow down gameplay if you're not familiar with all of them, and you're trying to run a very by-the-book game, which is kind of what I try to do. You might go, oh, well, you can wing it. Well, we try not to wing it because there's a reason why game designers design a game in a certain way, and that's because it's to balance everything out inside of its... how would you put it? Inside of its boundaries. By changing even a couple of those things, you can drastically change the aspect of the game. Like, there was one in the game of Pathfinder that I'm playing currently. They were originally doing that you could intimidate to demoralize as just like a free action almost, which breaks the game wide open. I mean, you can freely try to intimidate. It makes intimidate one of the best skills in the game then, because you get a free debuff for anybody that isn't immune to status affecting or mind affecting abilities, when it's supposed to be a standard action, and they balance it around that idea. I prefer realism over absolute balance. I think it's necessary to have both. I mean, because realistically, you don't get hit. You don't take getting hit by a longsword nicely. I mean, you could abstract that into saying that, like, you were bashing away at them and then they get fatigued and that's what the loss of hit points is. But at the same time, there's also supposed to be rules for that to say that you get fatigued in other ways. Oh, I need to get back on track here, actually. I think it's good to have a mix of both. If something just doesn't make sense, it's kind of important, I think, to take care of it. But at the same time, if something doesn't just completely seem like it messes with the rules entirely, I think it's important that you just let it go. That might be at odds with what a lot of people say, but like I said, I just think it's important to do that. Like, you got to understand that these game designers they've had a lot more time to think about the game and the repercussions of small changes to numbers than probably you have. And that's not a knock on, like, the players or the DMs out there. It's just, that's what these guys do. They sit at a desk for 6 hours, 8 hours, and play adventures until they find out what a change would do to the system. And that's why D&D Next has gone through so many iterations so far in the playtest.